Hello, good morning. This is the second video. Today we're going to talk about my mother. Wow, my mother. This is the Bible story that helped me to understand God used my mother. Now I want to read you that story. It's in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verses 37 to 42. A man named Andrew, with his friend, the two of them were walking down the street, and they saw Jesus coming by. They followed Jesus. Jesus turned around and looked. "What are you looking for?" he said. Andrew said, "Rabbi," now rabbi means teacher. "Rabbi, where do you live?" Jesus said, "Come, see." And so the three of them went off. And they stayed with Jesus all day. Andrew was so excited he ran to inform his brother Simon. He said, "We found the Messiah." Messiah. Remember, the Jewish people were waiting for God to send a king who would save them. That's the Messiah. Andrew said, come on, see Jesus, come." So the two of them went and met Jesus. Jesus looked at Simon. He said, "Your name, Simon. From now on, your name is Peter." Means rock. Peter means rock. Keep that story in the back of your mind. Now my story. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mother took me to church. The church's name was Sacred Heart of Jesus Church. That's where I was baptized. Really, this is the first time I went to church since baptism. My mother and I went into church. I was holding her hand. The first thing I saw was a huge crucifix. Crucifix means the body was on the cross. If there's no body on the cross, it's only called a cross. Anyway, it was a crucifix. Where was it? It was hanging in the center of the church, above the altar. I walked in, thought, wow, that's big, much bigger than the one I have at home in my bedroom. We walked closer and closer and closer to the front. My mother genuflected. Went into a pew, pulled the kneeler down, and knelt down, and made the sign of the cross, and prayed. What did I do? I sat down in the pew. My mother looked at me and smiled. I looked at her, and I looked at the crucifix. Poor man. He had nails in his hands and nails in his feet. Oh my. And a crown on his thorn and blood on his face. His face looked like he was in pain. I looked at my mother. She was praying. I remembered when I asked my mother, "Why can't I hear?" And my mother's answer was, "Because God loves you." I looked at her, looked at the crucifix. I said, "Are you God?" I didn't know his name yet. I looked, nothing. I looked up at the altar. People were going towards the altar to eat something. There was a tabernacle there, and a cloth hanging down, and it was open. I could see a box, and I wondered, is food there? There was a stained glass window with a picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. On the heart was a crown of thorns and a flame, and I just looked at it. I looked closer. It made me pay attention. Why? Because Jesus was pointing to the heart. Wondered, is that the same man? Look at his face. He looks like he's calling me, pointing to his heart. I kept looking at his face and the heart, back and forth. Look at the crucifix. Wow. Face changed. The statue itself changed? No. But he smiled. My heart, I felt that he smiled at me and whispered a message. It is okay. I looked up. I felt calm. Looked back at the Sacred Heart picture. Looked at my mom. My mother was praying. I looked at the crucifix. I wasn't afraid anymore. I looked at my mother. Why did my mother bring me here? Maybe she didn't want me to worry, to be afraid. Or maybe she was asking God to look down, take care of me. He smiled. I felt everything would be okay. Why? Because of my mother. Remember the story from the Bible? Andrew introduced Peter to Jesus. Who introduced me to Jesus? My mother. What about yourself? Look back, think or remember who introduced you to Jesus. Or who first taught you about Jesus. Share your story with someone, person one-on-one, or God. Write a letter or an email to God. I hope I will see you the next time. Okay? I love you.